Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I am Carly Weber, Account Executive for Lolly Insurance and a proud board member of the American Heart Association's Young at Heart Young Professionals Group. We are thrilled to welcome you to our second installment of our Executive Breakfast Series and are looking forward to an exciting discussion with our keynote speaker, Ashley Draper. We hope you will be able to offer this series in person in the future, but we appreciate all of you joining us virtually this morning. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce our American Heart Association liaison, Michelle Mason, to talk more about Young at Heart.
Thanks, Carly. Thank you all for joining us so early. I know a lot of us are still drinking our coffee and trying to wake up, and those of us with kids, me, are still dealing with the after effects of waking up our small toddlers really, really early. So welcome everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you guys for our second installment of our Young at Heart Executive Breakfast Series. Just to give you a little bit of history for those that are new, in 2019, Harder, Seacrest, and Emory, our proud Young at Heart sponsor, collaborated with us, the American Heart Association, to create this relentless group of young professionals in Buffalo who are passionate and supportive of our mission to be a relentless force for a world of longer, healthier lives. This group is awesome. I'm a little biased, but we're very, very excited to have them as part of our work. So the Young at Heart's pillars are focused on strengthening our community through healthy lifestyle initiatives, building awareness around our greatest health threats, heart disease, and stroke, and both social and professional development opportunities. Through Young at Heart, members get a front row seat to the work of the American Heart Association in our community and get to pave the way for more young professionals to get involved with funding research, advocating for policy change and healthier lifestyles, working with our school districts on free access to healthy foods, while also getting to volunteer, network, and lead the cause. So we realize there are so many young professional groups across Western New York, but as we see heart disease and stroke continue to be the leading causes of death in our community, we felt that it was time for the next generation of lifesavers to step into the spotlight. We're actually seeing more and more younger people dealing with the after effects of cardiovascular disease. So that means that our work is incredibly critical right now. So today, with the pandemic that we are facing, we at the Heart Association are seeing more of those heart and stroke patients struggle with the reality of COVID-19. Our most vulnerable are at risk. So the work that we are doing through Young at Heart, through the American Heart Association, is even more critical now than it's ever been before. So in the past year, this group has been extremely busy. We have built a robust board comprised of young professionals from organizations like Lolly and Rich Products, and have welcomed countless new members from companies across Western New York to this group. In the past few weeks, our Young at Heart members have been hard at work creating team engagement through a Cycle Nation scavenger hunt, which is part of the Cycle Nation 6-week virtual challenge. Through the scavenger hunt, they have encouraged over 230 participants to get moving while exploring the beauty of Buffalo through surprise clues. They did some fun videos of each of them going to the surprise clues area. So it's been really exciting and fun for us to do that as well. The Young at Heart board is in the process of creating a brand new mentorship program for Young at Heart members, and they're also doing these. So very, 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 very and eager to get started on so much more. So we at the Heart Association are so excited for the future of Young at Heart. We're so excited to have you on this call today. If you have any interest in the heart, reach out to me. But with that, I am pleased to introduce Corporate Wellness Team Lead for Lolly Insurance, who will be joining the other Carly as moderators for today's discussion.
Thanks, Michelle, for the introduction, and thank you all for joining us this morning. The way today will work is if you have a question for Ashley, please feel free to utilize the chat box feature on Zoom. We'll be monitoring the chat box throughout the speaker session, and we'll be asking Ashley your questions as we see them. If you have a specific question you'd like to leave towards the end of the session, we will also have a select time allotted for Q&A at the end. Today's keynote speaker is Ashley Draper, the CEO of Balanced Body Foods and co-owner of Jada Blitz Fitness. At Balanced Body, Ashley and her team focus on the philosophy about the interconnection between food and lifestyle. A startup, Balanced Body has grown with dreams of regionalizing it into a household name. Through Ashley's leadership as CEO, she has anticipated problems, busted through barriers as a woman in leadership, and knows how to market her brand. A graduate of Canisius College's MBA program, Ashley previously worked in sales and account management roles before pivoting her leadership skills to run her and her husband's entrepreneurial endeavors. With that, I am so excited to introduce Ashley Draper.
Thank you, Carly, and thank you, Michelle, for inviting me onto this. Hello, everyone. As Carly said, I'm Ashley Draper, CEO and owner of Balanced Body Foods and co-owner of Jada Blitz Fitness, both companies rooted here in Buffalo, New York. Just, I guess, a little bit background of myself. I am a mom of a 4-year-old boy and another baby expected in January, another boy. I grew up in Syracuse, New York. I attended Canisius College, graduated with an undergrad degree in pre-law, and really realized through getting my foot in the door in law firms and working that it wasn't really the path that I wanted to take. So after a few years of working in the real world, decided to go back to Canisius for my MBA in marketing, which then led me into a career of sales and marketing. Worked primarily in the investigative world. So not a lot of people know about it, but worked on doing surveillance and fraud investigations for major corporations and large insurance carriers. I worked my way up there, VP of National Sales. While I was there, I kind of started focusing my hobbies and my life back into like fitness and health. And I'd always been involved in sports and growing up in athletics, and really saw that like my passion was there. Led me to meeting my husband, who was a well-known personal trainer in the area, who at the time was working for a large corporate gym. And kind of with my push and support, pushed him to kind of create his own business and go out on his own. So that started Jada Blitz Fitness. We started in a 1,000 square foot facility, only doing personal training. And within a year and a half, we were busting at the seams. We had brought on 3 other trainers and we needed more space. We found a location on Transit Road after a year and a half. That was 8,000 square feet. And I was like, no, this is crazy. We can't do it. But I'm a believer in following your dreams and having a good plan to execute and be successful, and not looking at failure as a reason not to do it. So we opened up our second location, closing down the first. Fast forward 5 years later, we're busting out of the seams at that location. So this past November, we opened up a new 30,000 square foot facility in Williamsville in the former Buffalo Athletic Club. And really this spot we knew had to be different. We wanted to bring something to the community that was not found in Western New York, a place where members and clients could come in and have a one-stop shop for health and wellness. And we executed on that. We have really brought in technology. We have meal prep there with Balanced Body, a shake bar, massage therapy, physical therapists. We really wanted to create an amazing state-of-the-art facility in Western New York. We were on a great roll, and then COVID hit. So this year's been challenging, to say the least. But we've pivoted and we've been able to turn things around by being creative and innovative and really having a great team behind us. So that's kind of the lowdown on Jada. With regards to Balanced Body, in 2016, while we were in our second location for Jada Blitz, we saw meal prep kind of popping up and saw the industry kind of starting to make a mark and people relying on services for meal prep to be done for them. Saw a couple companies start up locally, and was approached by a friend who also had an equity firm who never got involved in startups before, but was really pushing us to do Balanced Body. Thought the idea was synergistic with Jada and that it would be a great offering to our members and the community, and also that Justin and I both had a lot of experience following nutrition ourselves, and that's our lifestyle. never did I think that Balanced Body was going to actually sprout to what it has. It's kind of become my baby, and we've grown tremendously over the past couple of years. Really, the mission behind Balanced Body is to teach people a sustainable and realistic approach to their nutrition while trying to live a healthier lifestyle. There is a lot of information out there with regards to nutrition as far as do's and don'ts if you just Google stuff, but really trying to teach people, you know, a sustainable way for them, and how to look at food as something that helps support you and not something that can always has this like negative connotation or quote unquote dieting.
Just wanted to ask you, do you have registered dietitians or nutritionists on staff? I know I have seen on your website, I think you can like ask a nutritionist or, you know, kind of chat with one, but just wondering that.
Yeah, so we, both my husband and then Aubrey Schofner are certified nutritional coaches. Aubrey is certified level 3 through PN nutrition. So she is kind of taking the nutritional counseling portion for the business.
That's great.
Yeah. So really ultimately both of our businesses are obviously rooted in health and wellness. And what our mission is to do is to help the community. I feel like more now than ever, especially with COVID, the conversation needs to be had is how are we living and how can we be healthier? We see a lot of those who succumbed to COVID had comorbid diseases and you know, cardiovascular diseases being one of them. So how do we help spread the message that, you know, your health does matter and there are resources available in our community here locally to help people when they don't know where to start.
And do you partner with other, you know, local companies, different centers, you know, where you can have your meals and make it easy for people to come pick them up?
Yeah, so we've done a lot with corporations, employers, kind of focusing on corporate wellness and helping them with their wellness initiatives, Lolly being one of them. So we, prior to COVID, I did a lot with going into corporations and speaking to employees kind of about our services, what we do, and then offering the employers and the employees of that company perks by registering with Balanced Body. So whether it be free home delivery or doing on-site delivery for those employees.
Excellent. And I know, you know, around the Buffalo area, there's a few other sort of, you know, meal packaging companies. But what would you say, you know, really stands out with Balanced Body and differs, you know, Balanced Body from the others that are out there?
Yeah, I would pride ourselves on our quality. We have true culinary chefs that are on our team that help develop the recipes, that it's not so much of a quote unquote like chicken, rice, and broccoli meal, like a bro meal we call them, but more of a gourmet meal or meals that people really want to eat, taking home cooked favorites and spinning it into a healthier version, and showing people like you can still have your pizza, you can still have a mac and cheese, but we're just going to make it a little bit healthier and more nutritional the way we prepare it.
Actually, I wanted to jump in here and talk a little bit about, you know, the beginning of your career. You know, most of the people on this call today are young professionals just starting off in their career, are looking for their next great opportunity, and you have such a great success story. So, you know, thinking back to the beginning, you know, did you ever see yourself being at where you are now, mom of 2 little kids, being a CEO of this, you know, massive gym and fitness facility and Balanced Body Foods? And, you know, what do you think about all of the young women who are trying to get their foot in the door in this industry?
The beginning of your question, no, I never, looking back in my early 20s, like what I have said, like I'm going to be an entrepreneur and have 2 companies. No, never. But I think something that has led me to have success is like keeping doors open, not being afraid to explore new opportunities and not being afraid of failure. I think a lot of people are just afraid to fail. And I think one of the biggest aspects of success is knowing that you can fail, but you'll learn from it and how you move forward from that. As far as a message to women, it's that you can do it and you can have it all. It's about finding the appropriate balance for you and especially your family. It's not always easy. There will be a lot of challenges, and there'll be a lot of days where you feel like you're failing as a mom, or you're failing as a business owner, or you're failing as an employer to your employees. But trying to understand like what's the most important to you and having goals lined out and how are you going to backtrack there and allocating your time properly. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. So what are you doing with your time ultimately? And honestly, as an employer, learning how to delegate. I'm a very like type A control. I'll do it better myself. So I'll just do it myself type of person. But I've really learned along the past few years, especially, that if I don't delegate, I'm going to get burned out and I'm going to be frustrated. And it's just about building up the people underneath you to make them feel empowered and make them feel like they're on your team for a reason and they can do it. You know, you're there to help them, but you believe in them and that they can execute and do it properly.
You know, speaking on that thought of failure, I feel like a lot of us are on that failure boat right now as we're learning to pivot and we're trying to balance everything during this time of COVID. You know, in your experience, what was one piece in this entire journey to where you are now, where you failed and that's what you've learned the most from? Can you give us one experience and how you came out from that experience?
I would say so, when we first, and with Balanced Body, when we first started trying to do more like corporate partnerships, putting coolers in certain facilities for like pickup. At first it was successful and then it just was like a failure. And we had spent all this money on purchasing these coolers, putting them into these buildings. But, sitting back and taking a look at the full picture and saying, well, we have this partnership, like don't walk away from it. Like people are interested in it, but perhaps having them delivered to their office isn't exactly what they're looking for. So what alternative can we have? And that was going back to our web developer and developing a way to have corporate roles set up for our customers. And if they are someone who is in that corporate role, they just automatically get free home delivery. So their meals are getting delivered on a Sunday to their home rather than getting delivered to their work. And then there was just issues, whether they were not there or if the meals didn't get picked up or they just didn't want to transport them back home. And so it was much easier to just kind of pivot it to a different option rather than just walking away from it.
Ashley, was there anything that you wish you had done differently in school? Yeah, when we're in college, we're young, and I don't think we really know exactly, what we want to do in life. So just wondering if there's anything that you wish you had done differently back in school.
I think just getting more involved in different opportunities or different things that I knew I had a slight interest in. I was very closed-minded, I'm going to go to law school. Mm-hmm. And so I worked in the law firms in undergrad and did an internship at the DA's office. And it wasn't until one of the firms I was working at had me start working on client development and marketing. And I realized that I was really well suited there. But I always knew that I always had interest in business. I always had interest in marketing, but I felt like I was going to disappoint my parents or disappoint all the people that I'd already said, I'm going to law school. Mm-hmm. And looking back on it, I just think just trust your gut, trust what your heart's calling you to do sometimes and not worry so much about what other people think. And try to just get as much experience as possible and make as many connections as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great advice. We actually did have a question come in from one of our attendees. So it says, your personal passion, wellness, and fitness is so aligned to your business and professional success. Do you find that you cannot escape, or do you think that it's important for those to be so intertwined and connected together?
Yeah, I think sometimes you feel like you can't escape it. And sometimes you feel like, especially when your businesses are known in the community, you're kind of under a microscope to always like do certain things, be portrayed a certain way. I think it's important to take breaks from stuff and to, you know, do what's best for you, but understanding that, you know, what led us to be successful at both businesses is that we're very passionate about it. If we weren't passionate about fitness and health in our own lives, I don't think that our clients and our members would feel that. They wouldn't take it as serious, and I don't think they would know that we're really there to help them in their lives.
You know, going back to the beginning again, you know, as you talked about how you were so in the mind frame, I'm going to law school, that's what I'm going to do, that's what I'm going to achieve. I think a lot of us can attest to that. We have dreams going into college of what we're going to do. And it, you know, obviously life happens and things change, you know, but leading to that, to your background, you know, how do you think that, you know, love and passion of law school coupled with, you know, the marketing skills that you were learning has gone into the success of the business strategy for Balanced Body Foods and Jada Blitz?
Definitely has helped a lot. I think just real world experience rather than schooling too. A lot of people are always like, oh, your MBA must have really helped you with launching your businesses and getting them to where they are. And yeah, there's, you know, just the daily knowledge or the knowledge you acquired from like an accounting perspective or a financial perspective from a program. But I feel like everything that I've learned from my sales and marketing career is really what has helped develop both businesses. Because I'm really big on relationships. I'm really big on working from a customer service centric position with Jada and Balanced Body. So I guess, yeah, I think you're going to learn, I think you learn more sometimes from real world experiences. So if you can do internships, if you can do, you know, any type of volunteer work, or you can sit on boards and be involved in committees, like that is where you're going to actually, I think, gain a lot of knowledge.
You know, and going off of that, you know, a lot of the volunteers that we have, especially those the Young at Heart Board and Committee, you know, come to us and say, we really just don't have any experience. We're just finishing up our MBA or we're just finishing up law school. In your experience, you know, I'm not sure if I can sit into this leadership role. I don't know how to get started. What would be your advice, you know, based off of your own experience of how you got started and that you could give to several of these people on the call?
I think find a mentor. Find a mentor in your area that you respect and that you think can help you in development. I've always had a business mentor and someone that I really looked up to. She's a woman, she's a mom. So having somebody that you can bounce ideas off of, somebody that can talk to you about their real world experiences and lessons that they've learned along the way, because sometimes somebody else's perspective on their success is very enlightening.
Definitely. And one thing that I've been thinking about is, you know, how this pandemic, I feel in personal opinion as a mother of two small children, has been extremely difficult for women and wife and mothers, especially because we're balancing so much. And as we've learned through the Heart Association is that more women die of cardiovascular disease each year than men because we are just struggling with so much on our plate. So, you know, being a mother yourself and a leader and, you know, working with young women who are pregnant or who have kids, you know, what's the biggest thing that you try to instill in them as far as balancing and making sure that their health is a priority?
I truly believe if you don't take care of yourself, it's going to be that much challenging to take care of others. COVID and the pandemic in particular, I think put a lot of pressure on our society of working women that you actually had to, you almost feel like you have to forego your career in some way because now you have to be this teacher too and this stay-at-home mom. And it's unfair in a lot of ways, I think. And hopefully things start going back to normal because it's not fair to the working women, I think. But I think I just went off on a little bit of a tangent there. No, but really just trying to have a good balance with everything and trying to, realize that it's not always going to be perfect, but you need to take care of yourself. And if you don't take care of yourself, everything else around you will crumble, I believe. So your health and your wellness and your mental well-being is extremely important. And you got to find little ways and little bits of time to dedicate to getting yourself where you need to be.
Sorry, I was coming off of mute there. Most definitely. So, going back to the beginning of your story of, balanced body foods and how you saw a niche for this type of business, how do you think balanced body foods, or why do you think it's been so successful compared to other meal packaging companies that you see around the area?
I think we did a good job with launching. We have thought out branding, marketing, our position in the market. We also had clientele to start. We had our gym. So we had, 1,000 members that were interested or would instantaneously know about Balanced Body. And I think we've done a really good job being customer service focused. We really want the experience of our customers to be different than the experience they would receive with another meal prep company. So having perks, rewards programs, just reaching out and seeing how they're enjoying the meals, if they have any questions, little things go a long way. Like it's food. So you have to kind of look at it like, it's kind of like a restaurant, but not. And I didn't want people to just grab a meal, go home and eat it and then never hear from them again. I want the feedback. I want people to feel like they have an impact on what we put on the menu next. And if they don't like something, sometimes it's hard to hear, but I want to hear it too. And how do we get better, and how do we fix any challenges or issues that we have?
Oh, actually, we had a question come in. Someone wants to know what your favorite Balanced Body meal is.
The Mexican Taco Bowl.
That's mine too.
Especially lately. I don't know if it's like a pregnancy thing, but I've literally had it every single day, I think. And then second to that would be the breakfast scramble. It's my favorite.
Yep. Those are two of my favorites as well. How would you say that the pandemic has really changed how you interact with the community, your clients, or how have you used your platform to continue to promote the importance of well-being, eating nutritiously through this time, maintaining physical activity?
Yeah, it's definitely impacted both businesses tremendously. I mean, even now at the gym, having to run at a 33% occupancy, people having to wear masks while working out. It's definitely changed our interactions with members from the gym perspective. We had a lot of cancellations, but then on the flip side, like we knew that people were going to be looking for facilities to work out if they were planning on coming back into a gym that were clean and sanitized and that they felt safe in. So we invested into like a Clorox 360 machine it's electrostatic sprayer to clean everything quickly. We wrote our own safety plan. We put a lot of like protocols in place that go above the CDC and the New York State regulations. So we actually gained a lot of new members from that as well, which has been nice. So yes, we had our fair share of cancellations of people who don't feel safe coming back into a gym environment because, we were shuttered for 6 months. And I feel like it went out to the public that like a gym was an unsafe place to be. When in reality, the infection rate is like 0.0023 or something crazy like that from gyms. So, we've really tried to focus on the gym side of showing that we're very clean, we're very safe, we are following the guidelines, the regulations, and we're going above and beyond them where we can. And then also recognizing that there's going to be members who still want to support us, but that aren't going to come back. So we launched through COVID, we were doing virtual classes and virtual training sessions. And now we just launched a new on-demand portal because we've been lucky enough that the weather's been decent and we've been still running a lot of our classes indoors, but we're going to have to pull them in eventually, right? Western New York. So we just launched an on-demand membership level where people have access to 100 new classes every single month, and we'll be live streaming cycling classes as well. So we've pivoted there with that, and a lot of people I think will take advantage of it, because as you see, like, you know, even in the Peloton world, like Peloton's business skyrocketed, right? Because people are working out from home. So can we offer them something a little more personal where they know our instructors, they know our trainers, and they're not paying a Peloton price to still be connected with Jada Blitz. And then with Balanced Body, you know, we had to do things like free home delivery during COVID. People were, you know, for a good 2 or 3 months, they weren't going out of their homes. They weren't really going into stores. So we launched a free home delivery program to try to keep sales up, and, you know, took a little hit with the delivery fee no longer being there. But I really think that helped us kind of stay the course with Balanced Body, and continuing to just put out information electronically on how people can live healthier and nutrition tips, et cetera.
Yeah, do you see, you know, God willing, eventually this pandemic will go away, but do you kind of see more of those on-demand virtual classes still being something that you'll offer, you know, even hopefully next year or in 2 years when this is all gone and we're out of this pandemic?
Yeah, definitely. I think an advantage that we had is we had decided to go with a particular company when we opened up our new facility. That's not very well known in the US, but they're big in Canada and Europe, and they're very technology focused. So a lot of our group room classes have the technology built in with their app. So people are getting their own statistics and stats during class. But I think that there's always going to be the people who now have been doing this at home, and they want to do both. They want to go into the gym, and they also want to have the ability to do it from home. I mean, I think, let's be honest, there's a lot of people who work who are never going to go back to an office. I feel like they're going to be working remotely for a long time coming. So I think there's always going to be people who want that remote option.
Yep, I would agree with that. What would you say is your biggest, you know, piece of advice to gyms and fitness studios right now as we still continue to navigate throughout this time of uncertainty?
Listen to your members, do surveys, ask them questions. What do they want? What do they feel comfortable with? And be willing to be innovative and not be so stuck in your ways. Because I think the fitness industry is definitely changing, and it changes all the time. I mean, there's constantly something new. There's constantly new classes, new ideas, new ways of doing things. So you have to stay innovative. You have to stay educated, and really like understand what your member wants and your client wants, because if not, they're going to go find it somewhere else.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. We actually had another question come in through the chat. What is your proudest moment so far throughout your professional career?
Definitely opening up this new facility. It was challenging, stressful. We've never dealt with like construction before. So really doing like demolition and building out a brand new 30,000 square foot facility. Like I said, I'm a very like control person. Like I want control, and you don't have control over any of that, no matter what you think. It never goes as planned. So to me, that was my biggest, proudest moment for my husband and I is getting that facility up and running, and the success that we've seen and the support we've gotten from the community from it.
You know, going back to the COVID regulations that we're facing, especially those of you who are in the fitness industry, and the fact that this could be like this for several years until there is a vaccine, you know, thinking about that virtual class aspect, how are you using that, or how are you foreseeing your gym motivating your clients and potential new clients to really lean into this new way of normalcy, especially with, you know, fitness and exercise?
I think just encouraging communication, making it as personable as possible, like through a virtual option. That's why I think that local facilities who do on-demand and virtual options have success with it, because not everybody, you don't know your instructor on a Peloton, right? But you know your instructor that you're taking a class with from your local gym, because you've had a relationship with them, you've taken their classes over the years. So I think that would be helpful, is just trying to keep it as humanized as possible and not feeling so remote, and doing virtual community events if needed. I mean, we don't know, we might all be shut down again, right? Hopefully not, but you know, just trying to keep people as connected as possible, because I think that's one of the big things we would see is we got more phone calls during being shut down of people saying, I just really miss the gym. I just really miss seeing people. That was my place. Like, that was my haven that I would go to after work. I would relieve my stress there. I just really miss going somewhere and having a community, and that they don't have it anymore.
Yeah, you know, going off of that, we've talked frequently about this on the Heart Association side, as I know Lali's talked about this too. You know, this mental health and resiliency. You know, we're seeing a lot of people feel very depressed during this time because they're alone, they're stuck at home, they don't know what's going to happen. There's just so many different things that we're having to jump around, and we've always spoken to the benefits of health and exercise. So, you know, what's your biggest thing that you tell people about, you know, continuing on a plan, on an exercise plan, to not only help with, you know, cardiovascular health and just, you know, feeling better about themselves, but also that mental health aspect?
Yeah, I mean, the science is there, and I don't think anyone would debate that if you get 20, 30 minutes of exercise, you feel better than when you started, right? Like, you have to get that serotonin going and those endorphins going. And, you know, just even little things matter, like just going for a walk, or, you know, just trying to find time to do it. I think it's super important. I think mental health is such an important topic that luckily has been brought up more recently over the years, but was, I think, missed for a lot of years. And the science shows that if you take care of yourself, you're going to feel better mentally, and it's going to help with stress, and it's going to help with depression. And nutrition plays into that just as much as exercise. So.
You know, and going back to this new frame of mind that we're seeing, you know, we're seeing a lot of the older generation still very uncomfortable with going out. And, you know, those are the people that we are seeing being impacted the most by, you know, pre-existing conditions, cardiovascular disease, and that sort of thing. And those are the people who need the gym community and exercise just as much. So, you know, going off of this, there's so many young professionals in this call. You know, how can we as young professionals be leaders for the older generation when it comes to advocating for health and wellness?
I think educating. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there in the media, unfortunately, that kind of scares people and makes them feel like they can't go home. So they can't leave their house and go into a facility and not be safe. So I think educating yourself, and then how you speak to others about it. You know, we get phone calls at the gym all the time, and people saying, oh, I can't work out in a mask. And I'm like, why don't you come in? Why don't you give it a try? It's really not that bad. I understand it's not ideal. And hopefully it's not forever, but this is what we have to do right now. And what is the alternative? You're sitting at home. You don't have any equipment at home, correct? So why don't you come in? Why don't you let us help you and feel, so you can see that it's comfortable, it's safe, it's clean, and that you can work out in a mask. I think it's sometimes just making them confident to like break out of their comfort level a little bit, but keeping them safe at the same time.
Awesome. And those of you in the audience, if you have any questions, we're opening up the chat box for even more questions. So please utilize the chat box if you have any more questions as we close out the webinar. But, you know, speaking of, you know, the science of health and wellness and nutrition, you know, going back to the science of balanced body foods, when you first started, you know, this thought, what was the science about what type of foods you wanted to provide and why?
Yeah, so we really focus on macronutrients. So your fat, carbs, and protein. Your macronutrients are what actually make up calories. I don't think a lot of people know that sometimes. So when you're looking at a nutrition label, you have your calories on top, and then you have all this other information. How those calories are made are simply from the fats, carbs, and protein. So for every gram of fat, it's 9 calories. For every gram of protein, it's 4 calories. And for every gram of carbohydrate, it's 4 calories. That's how you get your calories. We believe in teaching people how to eat optimal food. So eating your whole foods, and the food that is healthy for you, your fruits and vegetables, your protein, but also teaching people that like you can have your cheats, or you can have your bad foods. I'm not a believer in eliminating food groups unless it's for like a dietary need for a specific disease state. I'm not a fan of eliminating carbs, because ultimately people can't withstand it forever, right? So trying to teach people that carbs are not evil. It's about understanding how many carbohydrates your body needs based on your output and what your goals are. So really teaching people that it's not about labeling food as good or bad, because I think especially women, we tend to do that. And then we find ourselves with this like guilt after we eat something that we think is bad. But really it's about understanding what is in that food that I just ate, and how is that going to impact my day as far as my overall calories and what I'm trying to do. Am I trying to lose weight? Am I trying to put on muscle, etc.?
So we had a question come in. What about micronutrients? Do you take those into account too with your meals?
Yeah, we do. We try to pack in fruits and vegetables, or not really fruits, but more vegetables in our meals as possible. It is a fresh, not frozen meal. So sometimes the shelf life plays into what we can put in a packaging. But we do try to really look at our micronutrients, and we're actually launching a new website on Monday. And with that, we have some technology now to actually produce full nutritional labels, which will soon be on our meals. And I think will be kind of an advantage for us too in the marketplace, because I don't know of another meal prep company locally that does a full transpired nutrition label.
That's cool. I think all of us at home, you would think that us being at home more, we would be eating healthy more, but I don't think that's the case for a lot of people. I mean, I know in my household, we're living off of Baby Shark macaroni and cheese right now. So that's what we're eating. But, taking, everything that you said, that mindset of trying to be healthier and trying to look at foods as not good and bad, what would be, your biggest advice to people at home, especially young people? We think we're immune to anything, but we're saying that we're not, just to get started, even just at home on eating healthier.
Try to get your fruits and vegetables in, try to incorporate spinach, right? Throw spinach in with your eggs. Make sure you're drinking enough water. Water is a huge factor in satisfaction with your food as well. So if you're not drinking enough water, you feel hungrier when it's not really hunger. Getting enough water, not being afraid to try new things, and trying to get nutritionally dense food items in your house that have a longer shelf life. Looking at the superfoods, I use a ton of avocado at home. Eggs, I feel like we live off eggs. They're easy. I eat eggs for breakfast or eggs for dinner most nights, because Justin's still working and I'm cooking for a 4-year-old. The one I'm making for him, I'm not eating for myself. So I have breakfast for dinner 3-4 times a week. But yeah, just trying to do your research, understand what is nutritionally dense and what's going to get you your micronutrients, and also help you feel more satisfied.
What has been the biggest myth that you've heard that has come out of this entire pandemic experience about exercising and eating healthy?
Well, I think the biggest myth I've heard is gyms are COVID spreading, but that eating healthy, and I just think too many people they just threw in the towel. They just wanted to throw the towel in, and just, I don't know, that it was just impossible to work out at home, or they don't have the right stuff. It was pretty nice for most of the summer and through COVID and quarantine. You can go outside and take a walk. Walking is exercise. I don't really know about with food though, with nutrition, any myths I heard. I just think take yourself with COVID too, like vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc, like those have been shown and proven to really help if you even were to contract COVID, to really help minimize your symptoms.
You know, we're going to be closing out here soon, but I know that we just had another question come in. Why do you think as a community or even as a nation that a healthy diet and exercise isn't promoted more to help immunity and health as opposed to supplements and medicine?
I personally think I worked in pharmaceuticals for 2 years. I do think it's true that the pharmaceutical industry really has a grasp on our government, unfortunately. And yes, someone's nutrition and diet is their individual decision. But having worked with doctors in primary care and I worked in cardiology, I sometimes think that from a medical perspective, the patients aren't even given information on how to eat properly. They aren't given information on exercising. And I think the change needs to start there. And I think that we need to develop more programs in our community, especially our lower income communities, teaching people about diet and exercise, because they unfortunately don't have any resources. They do not know what to do or where to even start.
Ashley, another question that came in, are there any philanthropic organizations in the community that you're involved with? And if so, how did you get involved in that?
Yeah, so I sit on the board for Children's Hospital and their Festival of Trees. I have chaired the fashion show 2 years in a row, which unfortunately won't be happening this year. I got involved through actually a member at the gym. She asked me to partake 4 years ago. And I love what Children's Hospital does for the area. Being a mom myself, I think that we have one of only 75 full children's hospitals, and we have one in our city. So it's pretty special that we have this amazing hospital in our backyard, and knock on wood that, we never actually have to use it. But I think that the hospital is just tremendous what they do for mom and children.
And as we wrap up here, one last question I wanted to ask, again, going along the lines of inspiring our young professionals to get more involved, going on that, nonprofit philanthropic endeavors. What would be your biggest advice to the young professionals about getting started in that atmosphere?
Volunteer. Go, if there's a philanthropic committee or that you are interested in, or you think that would really align with you and what you believe in and where you would like to give back, just contact them. People always need volunteers. And there you can kind of meet people and get a better understanding of how the organization works and where their needs are and where you might be able to contribute.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. Thank you so much, Ashley. And thank you so much for your presentation this morning. This was incredible. I think that we really all learned a great deal from your journey and how you started, where you are today, just juggling everything that you juggle. It's really amazing and incredible. And I'm certainly inspired by your journey, and I would say that the others on the call are as well. So if anyone does have any questions for Ashley that we did not get answered today, please feel free to add them to the chat box, and we will circle back with you after today's session to get those answered. And again, Ashley, thank you so much for today. And to all of the attendees, if you do have an interest in joining our Young at Heart group, please contact Michelle Mason to learn more. And we will also be hosting our third installment of the series on December 10th. So mark your calendars, December 10th at 8 a.m. And we'll also send an invitation out as well. And also some important news, Jada Blitz Fitness will be joining the American Heart Association next week for its Cycle Nation virtual challenge. So certainly be sure to check out Jada Blitz website and Instagram. They'll have some information. If you'd like to learn more about Cycle Nation, you can certainly reach out to Michelle Mason as well to learn more. So again, thank you so much, Ashley. This was incredible. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. I know everyone's really busy, but certainly glad that you could all join us today. So thank you, Ashley. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.